Mitch?
I'm Mitch Dembin. I'm an assistant U.S. attorney here in San Diego. I'm the cybercrime coordinator for the U.S. Attorney's Office. I've been in and out of government during my career. I've owned a computer forensic company. I've chased hackers for a now defunct company called Exodus Communications. And I was the chief security advisor for Microsoft, a small company in the northwest of the U.S., for about 14 months. What I bring to the table actually is a very on-the-ground approach to cybercrime. I'm one of the people that, I don't really think about it, but I'm one of the people who actually tries, along with the agencies that do the actual investigative work, tries to identify and prosecute criminal hackers. People who are breaking into computers to do damage, steal information, or just have a good time are the people that I focus on. I've been lucky enough during my career to have been to several places in the world to talk about cybercrime issues, which I think is kind of what qualified me to do this. Not Canada, unfortunately, although I did play ice hockey growing up, so I can say A with the best of them. And I'm trying to make Sri feel comfortable, so I know a bit about Canada. I've been to Mexico, and I really like tequila.
Yeah.
And what Andres and I actually have in common is Andres is a computer forensics expert, and I, having owned a computer forensic company and been certified in forensics, we actually do have quite a bit in common. Jason and I don't have all that much in common, although I recommend to you the Cybersecurity Malaysia website. I am a musician, and the Cybersecure Malaysia website has a cybersecurity song on it. So somebody in his office has some musical background. I'm hoping it's Jason and that we have that in common. As for Ilya, I have actually been lucky enough on behalf of the United States to visit Russia twice to talk about white-collar crime and cybercrime. So I've experienced, thanks to the United States, they've never sent me there in the summer. I have only been to Russia in the winter, and I think that experience qualifies me perhaps more than others.
Mitch, can you do your Russian greeting?
Здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте.
It's a wonderful word. It sounds so harsh, and it's just hello. Gotta like the language. And so, really, my role here is to talk about, to the extent we will, some of the it's in part cybersecurity, but to me, as my boss said earlier, cybercrime and cybersecurity go hand in hand. We have some very big issues identifying the nature of an incident that occurs. It can be a crime, it can be a terrorist action, or it can be an act of war. And how we assess that act sets wheels in motions that sometimes can't be taken back. But at its heart, there's an incident that occurs. Information is stolen, a server is trashed, a denial of service attack occurs. And how we address that kind of has implications for all of us. And we really need to step back sometimes and think about what these actions really are and the problems that we have with regard to attribution. So I think we'll talk about that at some length, I hope, during the course of our panel.
So a man who needs no introduction,
That's
Mitch.
I think next year, Buenos Aires, what do you think? So I want to try and bring it local. Here in San Diego, we are absolutely bleeding data. We are bleeding data from our largest companies. We are bleeding data from our defense contracting industry. We are bleeding data from our hotels. We are bleeding data from small restaurants in the Little Italy section of downtown San Diego, whose software, when they swipe the credit card, has been compromised, to the extent that our own Darren has had his credit card compromised by going to just a small restaurant in Little Italy. The data that's being taken from our largest companies, our defense contracting industries, is one issue. There's a notion that perhaps that is being accomplished by various foreign entities in order to gain a military advantage against the United States. That affects us globally. It affects us as a nation. It's an important issue, but it's not one generally that falls within my purview of cybercrime. But it's the small stuff, Darren's card, the hotels, the restaurants that have their data, which is primarily our personal information, that is being stolen using very advanced technology. I'm not talking about just a breach of a database. That's, a competent hacker can go up against a database that isn't properly secured, and taken enough time, they're going to find a way to grab the contents of that database. And companies, we try and talk to companies about not storing unnecessarily personal information, our credit card numbers, the information on the back of our credit cards, debit card pins, and the like. But database hacks will occur, and they are problematic. But what we're seeing that is even more problematic is now the use of very advanced malware, RAM-resident malware, that is going into even the smallest businesses in order to steal primarily our credit card numbers. And how many of us, I like to do this because every time I do it, the numbers get more. How many of us, any of us in here, have been victimized by identity theft in some way? I mean, look around the room. And it's a pain. Yeah, it's a pain. Typically, it's just your credit card number, and oftentimes that isn't that hard to deal with. In the U.S., most of the credit card companies, the banks, have anti-fraud provisions, and your loss is limited, and it really doesn't have an impact on your credit score. But today, a lot of it is debit card and PIN information, which drains your bank account, which can have an impact when you bounce a check. It also is personal identification that is being used to get credit cards in your name and run them up so that you feel the pain of the credit card hit. That information, and I guess, is information that is being taken overseas. Why do we have an international panel? What's the significance of this? The data that is being stolen about us is being taken overseas. The malware originates from overseas. The data is sent overseas. And there's almost nothing we can do about it, to be honest. We really can't do anything about it because we operate very, very poorly in real time, even with countries that want to be helpful. I'll give you an example. Let's just say we have the ability to talk in real time to someone who is in the process of stealing credit card information from a local company. We find this person on one of these forums, these internet forums in which they operate. Let's just say we have a federal agent who is able to access that forum because they've been introduced by somebody else. We try and engage this person to find out how they were able to get these numbers. We can identify maybe the numbers, the banks they came from, and the like, to try and minimize the impact on victims. Once this federal agent starts engaging with this person through the forum and discovers that that person is in another country, we have huge issues with that country. Most countries of the world consider it a breach of their sovereignty for us to engage in what they consider to be undercover operations within their country. Now, that goes back to the physical world. Nobody wants an undercover agent from another country to be physically on the ground in their country doing criminal investigations. And you kind of understand that. Sort of makes sense. But when you're talking about engaging with someone over chat or through email who's in another country, those rules that were created for physical incursions have been applied to our internet world, which makes our undercover operations stop in their tracks.